Since we don't have a chairperson right now, I will call us to order. Everybody who is on the board at this point is here. I won't bother taking roll since you can see who's here, I think. Public comments. We have no one here for public comments. Mr. Webb is here to talk with us about Bluegrass Festival. We'll get to that in just a second. Any questions or comments about the minutes from February? Everybody remembers those minutes, it's crystal clear, right?
Yeah.
Any motion to approve those minutes?
I'll motion.
Kaylin motion, a second?
Second.
Jeremy a second. All in favor of those minutes from February as written? Anybody opposed to that? All right, motion passes. Mr. Webb, Bluegrass time.
Wow.
Yeah, we're efficient.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not, so you'll have to make up for my inefficiency, all right? I think I'll just come around here and kind of face you down if you want to. I didn't bring any spit wads or anything for you to throw at me, so.
That's fine. The application for event support funding from OIBF is, it's pretty much the same as last year, correct?
Very similar. We've had a few incidents occur since last year, but
Sure.
we've, by the way, before, if you want me to say a few
Sure,
words.
go ahead.
I thought it'd take the next hour and a half. The Bluegrass Festival, Oklahoma's International Bluegrass Festival, is what we like to call ourselves. Actually, we're titled Oklahoma International Bluegrass Festival, but another organization decided to pick up the Oklahoma and people got confused, so we decided to put that apostrophe S in there. Said we're Oklahoma's International Bluegrass Festival, and we still like those other folks. But this is our 23rd year here in Guthrie, America, and I want to tell you, we have we look back on those years and we're so thankful for all of the support and for all of the encouragement, not only goodwill, but effort and means behind that will to help us to be all that we can be. Because our festival, while we love the music, it's bluegrass obviously, but we're kind of eclectic. We have some traditional music, some folk music. We've even been known to have jazz music, western swing artists. Byron Berline, of course, is our founder and CEO, and has just he likes good music, and he's the one pretty much in charge of recruiting some of the best entertainers and artists from around the world. He knows so many of them and gets them to come here. So we have one thing we're assured of, whether it is pure bluegrass or some other grass. I don't know if we ought to explain that. But regardless, it's on TV now. Well, we'll call it Bermuda grass. But regardless of that, we have an opportunity to bring some great musicians. And our crowds are pretty good size. We have a great time. It's like a home reunion every year. We have over 400 volunteers, or approximately, sometimes a little over, sometimes a little under, volunteers who help us. We're a nonprofit 501(c), as many of you know. And but of those volunteers, about 85% of them come from right here in the local area, Guthrie and the surrounding environs. So it's really a local effort. It's a team effort, and we're just pleased to come again this year and ask for your support, whatever you can give us. We put a number down, and we will certainly, if it is accepted and granted, we will put it to great use. As most everyone in this community knows, we had a little bit of a setback back in February. Byron's Double Stop Fiddle Shop and Music Hall was pretty well destroyed in that fire. And one of the things that we haven't really publicized a lot, but all of our bluegrass equipment materials, many of them, our office was on the second floor of that building. So it pretty well went up in smoke too. So right now my office is out of that bag right now. But we're restoring it. But it put us into a situation where we have to reorder. We're very frugal though. We're good stewards of the funds we have. But back to what relating to you and to the appeal for a grant from you, is that we try to dedicate monies, at least equivalent, actually it turns out to be more than that, to not only promoting the festival with those funds, but also promoting Guthrie. We think that you're an asset to us, and we think we're an asset to you. And so with that kind of synergy, we can get together and really appeal to the people in this community, in this state, in this region, in this country. And granted, many people come from all parts of the country. Usually we have a few from out of this country, Canada, Japan, Europe, who love bluegrass. Bluegrass is in some places more popular than it is here. So they love to come here. They love the laid-back atmosphere. They love the outdoors venue. And so we have a marvelous time, but we're serious about promoting not only our music and our festival, and one of the, of course, main goals of our festival is to encourage you to become more interested and more involved in the music. Therefore, we have a scholarship program for students who are interested in pursuing acoustic instruments and performance. And this year, I believe we have about 23 approved scholarship winners. We have, over the last 22 years, handed out over $175,000 in scholarship money not to pay for all of their training, but it supplements what they do. Because we want them to be vested interest. If you just give it, you don't get the results. You don't get the commitment. But when they're committed, and they're willing to put, and it's not them, it's their parents, willing to commit their resources and their efforts and their desire and their passion to it, it becomes great. We've had some excellent graduates of that program that have performed all over the country. And so that's in a nutshell what we're about. And if you have any questions about the festival, if I don't have an answer, I'll just ask Justin to pick it up from here, okay? Did you have a question?
I just have to say these figures are so impressive.
I'm sorry?
These figures are super impressive. What you are able to do with, your expenses versus your income is very impressive for a community event of this magnitude.
Well, but thank you very much. I'm happy you recognize that. From Byron, who is part German, and I'm not going to cast any aspersions to his ethnicity, but he is very frugal, and he is very frugal with us being frugal. He wants us to be frugal, and so but even if he weren't here, all of us. One thing, we have a very great consensus on our board. And our advisory committee, they're all involved in what we do. And we usually like to work on the basis of we make a decision together.
Right.
But one of those priorities is a lot of festivals that were around a couple of 3 years ago aren't here today. Their festivals have been on, and that happens all the time. Festivals come, festivals go. We didn't want to be in that situation. We wanted, from the outset, to lay back a little bit of reserve so that if something happens, like a building burns down, like people become ill or sick, or we have floods, or we have storms in October, or there are things, contingencies that can arise that we need to take in consideration, that we need to plan for. And so all that we can do, of course we're not superhuman, but we try to use good stewardship of the funds we're entrusted with, not only from the city of Guthrie, but we have many contributions coming from businesses and individuals throughout this town, throughout this community, down in Oklahoma City, around the state. And they expect us to do well, and we expect us to do even better than that in doing that. Thank you for mentioning that.
the building that you utilize, the churches for your volunteer headquarters, what's the status of that right now for utilizing it?
Well, we know that it's still standing, and that's good news. The water got up to almost around 4 feet in that building. We anticipated that we were in a floodplain there, and we knew we were. So several years ago, we put shelving up high, 4, 5, even 6 feet up in the room itself, so that any materials or equipment that would be sensitive to water damage in the case of Cottonwood Creek overflow would not quite reach there. It would be beach property, but not in the water, okay? And so we came out real well. The only things we had on the floor were did not have a problem with the water. The church was very accommodating. They went through the building and power washed the whole building right after the waters went down and it was safe to go in. And they found some mold in our room and took out, surgically removed all of the black mold that was there and disinfected it. And we're going to, by the way, we're following that up with some further sanitation. And then we have a project to get some professionals to come in and help them out by pretty well cleaning up the bathrooms there. We use those facilities during the festival, and so to make them just super spot, we're going to have some people come in and professionally kind of renovate that where it's really suitable and where no one will have a question about the safety and sanitation there. So we'll have the building ready. And by the way, if for some reason ever that building does not meet our requirements, and we have pretty high standards, it's got to be clean, it's got to be serviceable. But if it doesn't meet those standards, we'll just rent a tent, a big old tent, and put it there on the east side of the festival grounds, and we'll operate out of there. But we'd rather work in that building because it does have some assets for us to work with. So we're prepared in case a contingency arises. But the church has been very cooperative. Our youth tent is over there on the basketball court and gets lots of attention from people. We have over 400 students from the Guthrie area that take advantage of our programs. That's free to them. So the public schools here are invited to send students over. We have of course a max. We've got about 400 is the best we can do to get in where people can really survive and still enjoy the music and the training that they get. They'll get some actual hands-on elementary things for kids to do that make it fun, and we hope pique some interest. And then we bring youth bands in to give them an idea of what some of their peers are doing in music. So it's a lot of fun, but it's also, there's an educational element that is really a priority there. I don't want to go down too many rabbit trails. What else? What do you? Not that I'm enthusiastic or have any passion about this festival. Another question.
I was looking at the estimated overnight stays, approximately 1,500. Can you tell me what went into the figuring of that number?
Okay, it is calculated based on, it's an estimate, because we don't do we can't get an exact counting, but we do surveys, and we kind of extrapolated from those surveys we do know this. We consistently book virtually every motel room and B&B. And I was told, the reason I'm a little angry, we would like more B&Bs here to be able to help, because we always have more people that want to stay than we have that are available. So, but that's good for the city as well, of course. The resource, it's very difficult to put an exact dollar and cent figure on what economic influence we have on the city. But we do know that it's considerable. We know that a lot of our people trade at the stores here locally. They treat it like home away from home. We have had people move here to Guthrie because of the festival. They like not because, I mean, the festival got them here, but they love the community. They like the antique stores. They like the fact you have things downtown. Now, first when we saw all those things going on downtown, we said, that's going to pull away from us. But it draws more people to us, and we're doing well with that. Excited. And that gives us a better working relationship with the businesses that are in this town. So we have a great family involvement in this as far as the community is concerned. We want to continue. But that's the answer to your question is we don't know. It's not a scientific poll, but it's basically an extrapolation of what information we do have. That's an approximate figure.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Webb? And the festival and the city council just worked out a new lease this year for the next few years, 4 or 5 years, for them to utilize the festival during that time period. So that lease just got signed again by both parties. So.
And by the way, the city has just been phenomenal in helping us with a lot of our infrastructure. Last year they put in pedestals, electrical pedestals that greatly expanded our ability to serve our customers in the campgrounds. And those people, you know, people sometimes don't like change, and people saw that when they got through, they loved it. And I'm hoping that the water didn't adversely affect those. We had everything turned off, maybe.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's good news. That's my best news today. But we've really enjoyed a great working relationship with the city of Guthrie. This is my 16th year as festival coordinator, and I've been involved with the festival. Byron brought me in the year 2000 and had me cleaning latrines, and I still do that on occasion, but I'm trying to get out of that because I feel like there's a time when your apprenticeship should end and you can be able to do something that is a little bit more elevating, but we'll see if that ever happens. I'll let you know first when it does. But we really thank you for your support through the years. And that lease agreement is meaningful to us because we will honor it as the city has always honored our working relationship. And you have done more. The city, of course, our leader, Byron, had this terrible tragedy, losing countless dollars in the fire there. The city of Guthrie jumped right in, along with a lot of other people. But it took a lot. He lost a lot. I'm not going to discuss specifics, but he lost a lot. Much that will never be ever, for any amount of money, replaced. But he gained the knowledge of knowing that this community was right there for him. And we are so thankful for that, and it is not forgotten. It will never be, as long as I'm involved with the festival, and as old as I am, you said, well, how long could that be? But as long as I'm involved with the festival, we'll never forget what you did and what you're doing. And that's all I got to say about that.
I do have a question that kind of correlates off of the fire in February. Does the board estimate that the attendance will be affected? I imagine you'll have maybe more people attending this year, 2019 being such a emotional year, losing Byron's initial original shop, him opening his new one is exciting, a lot of people wanting to come and see it. Do you imagine, or have you heard any initial numbers to expect even more than 5,000 or 1,500 overnight stays?
That's a great question, and my 5,000 figure is an estimate again.
It seems on the low end, I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
It does
Well,
seem.
sometimes they surprise us, and depending on weather conditions, there are several variables which will affect us. But directly to your question, when the fire occurred, Justin was the first person. No, it was Terry Moore out at Job Corps called me, I believe. He said, Tom, are y'all cooking something at the double stop? And I said, what do you mean? He says, could there be a fire there or anything? I said, no, surely not. He said, well, there's smoke coming out of the building. And from that time to the hours later, and then we're looking, and we're seeing all the, a lot of our things. For example, our banners for our, a lot of our banners, our sign material for the sign we put out on I-35 went up in blazes. And there's a lot of things like that that happened. And so for about a month or so, we were kind of stymied as to what we were going to do. I mean, we weren't stymied, but we were looking at different options, what we're going to do to recover and how we're going to apply ourselves. And of course, we're trying to help Byron out. We had to do it behind the scenes with ourselves, and we couldn't get directly involved in it. We tried to give you technical support and some experiential support that we have from our festival in developing that great tribute that was paid to Byron down at the Masonic Temple. It was a marvelous event, one that I will never forget. It was a Kodak event in my mind. But so we got late actually in doing our own promotion.
Right.
So but we picked up on it, and in our board meeting this last Thursday, Jim Blair indicated to us that while we got a slow start, we're still right now we stand our second most successful early bird ticket sales. That's very good for us because we didn't get started for a month late. So
right.
That's really, it's, even though it's not as great, we'd like to be number one every year, but we're in a way we are, because we're ahead of where we should be if everything else were equal. So we're expecting a good festival. We plan for a good festival. We plan for success, but we're ready in case it doesn't. And there's a balance there.
Right. Well, I guess my only concern might be too heavy of a word, is just because of the damage to the infrastructure that happened earlier this year, along with the human interest of people wanting to come and witness this historic year in person. Do you feel like you might need any extra help as far as pulling it off, so to speak?
Well,
do you guys feel good where you're at? Do you feel like you'll be back on track?
We have indications, given the history of the support we've received, and we're counting on that to an extent, okay? We're hopeful that everyone that has been will be, but also we have had interest in doing things in the festival, but people attending the festival, because it was promoted during the time, just inadvertently, and then at the event it was promoted. So we're expecting the best, but to say, well, we're going to have 7,000, we've had as many as 8,000 on Saturday night when Vince Gill was there, for example. We had almost 20,000 when Willie Nelson came several years ago, over when we were at the football field. It was a madhouse, but it was a wonderful madhouse. And that particular year, we'd had a couple of previous years of problems financially, and that made up for most. And what did we do? We took the funds, socked them in a hole, because we know that everything doesn't go swimmingly, especially when you have an outdoor event.
Right.
You're vulnerable to that variable, and we never know. But we're planning on the best, and then when we have a great time, we don't just spend all of our coins, put aside for a rainy day, and then that way, that's stood us. And in this case, we haven't, even though we met some budget what's the word? Stress and trials. We were able to work that out, and we're back on track.
Great. That's great to hear.
So,
Glad it's working out.
and we're going to have a good festival, and we always are looking for better ways. The monies that we receive from a lot of places, they want it to go to the entertainers, to the artists, and we want that too, to a point, because we want to get the best entertainers you can get. Will draw more people, see. So that's great. But we also don't want to forget that if we're just thinking of money, we sometimes forget the people.
Exactly.
And this is a community effort. And we want this to go long beyond just a money maker. We're at 501. It's not important to us that we make boodles and boodles of money. We like to get everything we can, but we want to properly invest it and save for the future.
Any other questions for Mr. Webb? Any discussion? I would entertain a motion. Anybody has a motion in regard to the event support application?
For the
2,500?
I would make the motion that we approve the amount requested for 2,500.
Second with that.
First from Jeremy, second from Tommy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries.
We're grateful and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Webb.
you.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day. We'll bring someone with a high Q of over 70 the next time. All right?
Don't do that, you'll make us look bad.
All right, next agenda item. As you can see, Mike is not here. Mike Monahan he recently purchased a home outside of city limits and which makes him ineligible to be on the board. And so with both Mike's resignation and HC's resignation, we have 2 openings on the board. Mike was the chair, HC was actually the vice chair. So we have, not only do we have openings for 2 board members, we have openings for both of those officer positions. The chair for this committee basically just amounts to chairing the meeting. There's not a ton of work other than maybe just a couple phone calls with me a month leading up to the meeting. If there's anyone who just has an overwhelming desire to be the chairperson for this group, just to start with, is there anybody who just like feels the calling to chair the CVB at this point? Does anyone want to volunteer someone else to be the chair?
I would volunteer Kaylin Swanman.
Oh, okay.
I second that too, as long as it ain't me.
So it's just a couple of hours a month
Yeah,
conversation.
if
Well, because in all transparency,
Yeah.
I am the president of Guthrie's Territorial Christmas Foundation.
So
I own and operate a business, I just,
that's,
anything that I do, I want to do as well
Right.
as absolutely possible. So I very much appreciate the nomination, but please do not vote for me if you are in any doubt that I can do it to the extent that it needs to be
a
done.
lot going on.
Yeah. I do. I have a lot going on.
if somebody, if you're on the board already here, it basically amounts to whether you have the mental space left in life to like chair the meeting, as well as maybe a phone call a month, just to maybe clarify some agenda items or something like that. It's not a super overwhelming amount of like stuff. So,
Okay.
That worked.
You've watched it in the last few months.
You'll enjoy
Sorry?
it.
You've watched it in the last few months, you kind of have a good idea. It's more responsive than creative,
Let's try to speak.
correct?
yeah, basically just Robert's rules of order, and then that's about it. Um,
All right.
She said yes to it, so now does somebody want to make an actual, like an official motion?
I would make a motion that Kaylin would serve as the chair of our board.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Does everyone-
Motion and a second. All in favor?
I'll try.
Anybody opposed? You look so thrilled by this honor.
No, it is an honor to be nominated and voted in. Thank you.
Right on. I meant to say this before we even did that. So since we're on video, thanks to Mike and HC for all of their service to the board and to the city on the last couple of years of being on CDB. And So thanks to those folks. Thanks for you volunteering to be the chairperson.
Yeah.
On to the next item, which is the vice chair. It's basically the vice chair, just somebody who can fill in if the chairperson isn't going to be here to chair the meeting. Anyone feel super inspired to be the vice chair? It's okay if you don't feel the Lord calling you.
The Lord.
This feels good, like a revival meeting.
Right.
Does the vice chair have to do the phone call, or is that just the?
No, really, like the vice chair pretty much is just if the chairperson can't make it, you chair the meeting. That's
You'll
basically it.
just be the backup.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you just say you'll?
He really did, he just said you.
Why does this whole thing feel like a setup tonight?
It is.
I'll do it.
Sweet, we got out of that one.
Are you making a
Yeah, I will nominate her.
All right.
Kristen.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All right, so Kristen is the vice chair. All
I
right,
played that pretty well.
well done. Okay,
Quick question.
Yes.
So does that mean that there will be openings on the board now?
yeah, there's still the two openings. So the officer roles are filled. We still can use two more folks. So if you know anybody,
Sean at the Pollard is very interesting.
cool. Yeah.
Just-
Remind everyone how that works as far as nominations and
Get stuck.
mayors and involved, or?
Yes, and I'll have to get back to you on exactly, I should have been more prepared for that. There are a certain number of board members who are nominated by, mayor does the at-large nominations, and city council wards nominate the other members. I'll have to look and see what Mike and HC were, who they were nominated by. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's confusing.
But it's based on the applications. that we
Yes,
have.
so it doesn't matter who they're nominated by to start with, the city just needs the applications. So the pool of applicants, those applications I'll hand over to whoever's up next to nominate. So whoever's nominating will get the stack of applications, and they'll look through it and decide who they want to nominate to city council.
Do we have a stack currently, or we have to get new ones each time?
We got nothing right now.
Okay.
No.
But there's always a plea on water bill and on the website
Yeah.
for citizens to step up and be a volunteer on all these boards.
Yeah. So if you know anybody who would be fantastic, that can join us, feel free to exhort them to turn in an application. So, all right, budget update. How are we doing? Well, after 6 o'clock, not too bad. All right, so I'll go over a couple things budget-wise. I sent you guys an email update about revenue stuff for the year. Again, even though we're down this year revenue-wise, just like the city as a whole with sales taxes down this year compared to last year. Now, compared to the year before that, we're still doing really great.
Last
So-
year was just really good.
Yeah, so a lot of folks, I think, are kind of anxious about this year, but that's just compared to last year, which was a fantastic year. And when I talked with Kim earlier today in finance, the best feedback she's gotten in terms of why last year was just fantastic for a sales tax and a hotel revenue funding perspective. Talking to the state, it seems like it might have had a lot to do with oil and gas, and the energy sector was just in the community so much that particular year that it had a huge impact on all of those things. And it sounds like some of that activity has shifted, a county over this year. So that's, and Jeff, you might have, if you have any perspective on that at all, I don't.
No, that's what we've heard too. We've
Okay.
heard the same thing.
And it's kind of shifted out of Kingfisher County
It's all, yeah,
also.
exactly. It's
Oh,
got
really?
Fisher County.
Okay.
Lisa and themselves at Boomerang are not what they were.
No.
this time last year. They're not bad,
Right,
but on the other side, Guthrie's are picking back up, so
okay.
they're just gonna switch back and forth. I don't know.
Remind me when what's this new upcoming festival that's happening?
Born, like in September, late September, is the Born and Branded Festival.
Oklahoma born.
Yeah.
Hopefully that has a good impact on all
Yeah.
this.
So for the since we didn't have the Guthrie Escape Festival, it'll be nice to have something that kind of fills that gap in September. And I'll talk about something else later. But anyway, so looking at like June through September of these previous years, that gives you an idea of like our hotel motel revenue for those few months. And even though we're down for FY19, we had enough of a funding balance because of last year, we started the year with. Like we still, in order to meet our budget, like estimate for this year, for what we're having, what we had estimated for this rest of this year, we still we don't need a whole lot to meet that based on what we started with. So all that to say, we're still doing okay. We're still doing fine with what we wanted for this year. Now, when we start our budget planning for FY20, that's going to be adjusted down from this year, just to be a little more realistic about what we're looking at. But for this year, we're doing fine. So, any questions about what we're looking at for the rest of this budget year, which lasts to the end of September, just in case anybody needed to know that. We're on a different calendar than the state is, which is a little bit confusing. Sometimes a lot confusing.
So do we have anything else besides that one coming up between now and September, the application so far?
No, in terms of event support applications, there's nothing else that is coming in. So as of this point, with that category, we had 3,500 remaining in that category. We just allocated 2,500 for OIBF. So there's a little bit left in that category for the year. And
So we need to get this done quick.
and there's nobody else on deck that is
Right.
turned in any kind of application for that category for the year.
So I'm sorry, is 35 after IVF or it's now 1,000 now?
Now it's 1,000. Yeah. Okay.
But there's another budget, correct?
There's other category, like the marketing category. It still has. There's still like a pretty good chunk of money in there.
Can I ask something about that in relation to VCW? Why didn't we take that out of marketing last time? Because basically that's what we did. We put up banners, we put up the stuff down there, we advertised there more than.
I mean, it's a little bit of a gray area in terms of like what category things. But typically, events, even if they're going to use that funding for like marketing purposes, it's typically we viewed it as an event support application. An event is asking for financial support from the CDB.
Right.
So,
So how does a marketing budget be utilized? Does someone have to specifically, how does that work?
give me an idea of what I'm not sure what you're asking.
I don't either.
Okay.
So we have a marketing budget.
Yeah.
Is that something that people apply to as well, the same way that they apply for event support?
No, it's different. That's more of it's a much broader category. That marketing and promotion supplies kind of category. It gets used for anything from like if we buy stickers to hand out at a trade show or something. To if and this year we moved the money for our advertising contract with the rodeos out at Lazy E.
Okay,
All that
that's
comes out of the marketing category.
Gotcha, okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, there's And there is some we could look at certain things as marketing contracts versus event support, and just, I think traditionally it's just kind of worked out, one going one way, one going the other. So, yeah. And in previous years, all of the rodeo events out at Lazy E, they were event support applications. But it kind of just made more sense to make those advertising relationships as opposed to them needing event support, because it's just an advertising thing with us getting Guthrie's name out through their various mechanisms for those rodeos. So, honestly, it could go either way with a lot of that stuff, but
I was just curious.
yeah. But the marketing category, those two category names have just always existed.
Okay.
But the marketing category is a much broader, it kind of just covers everything that's
Where my
not.
confusion came from was thinking that it was two different budgets that people could apply for grant money from, but that's not the case. That clears my confusion up. I have a question, one more question, and I don't know if it's more pertinent for this or for just the comment section, but it's referring to Airbnb. And does CVB get hotel motel tax off of Airbnb stays the way that we do off of traditional B&B? And if not, why?
It has to do, I think the answer is yes and no, because there are some.
Aiden's like, why?
Throw my pen, alright.
Because not there are some Airbnbs that aren't just Airbnbs. They're listed as Airbnbs, but they're also
The regular B&B?
regular B&Bs. And so, but not every B&B is an Airbnb. So some of them collect hotel motel tax.
So if
Some of them-
something
not
is
all of them do.
exclusively an Airbnb,
There's no hotel.
we
motel
don't get
tax
any
on it.
type of, is that a state level oversight? Because Airbnb is rapidly overtaking
Way,
traditional.
Yeah, I know that Oklahoma, I think at a municipal level, they can pass ordinances to collect hotel motel revenue off of the Airbnbs. I believe Oklahoma City just recently did that.
But we have not.
So that's a city by city thing?
That's my understanding.
Who do I need to call and ask about that? I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Jeff Taylor. So,
Well, that just seemed, I was thinking, Airbnb stuff was on my radar recently, and I was wondering
Yeah.
if CVB gets any type of, I mean, even First Street alone, almost every house is an Airbnb now,
right.
so.
And Farrell and I just looked the other day at, if you look at all the different Airbnb listings, a number of them are like regular B&Bs as well.
Yeah, they've started listing on Airbnbs. I know Aunt Coffin has.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about it for the Pollard. It's like,
Which brings up another, well, yeah, so if they're paying as a regular B&B but then not paying as an Airbnb,
well, they're paying regardless when they get in there. They're just advertising on the Airbnb sites. So that was our discussion the other night downtown, that they don't think it's right that they're having to pay the hotel motel tax where these other people that aren't a regular B&B are not having to pay that.
well, that's my point. What's gonna stop them regular traditional B&Bs from stopping being regular traditional B&Bs and going to be Airbnbs if it costs them less
Registered as
money?
one?
I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Yeah, well done.
Well,
Good thing you're the chairperson now.
but it's nationwide, it's worldwide, so each place has just had to decide
Right.
the same problem. We probably
Yeah.
should look at it and see
Yeah.
what kind of income we can get from it for
They have
our
it.
city.
And I'm not trying to make business harder on anybody, certainly not, but Airbnb, it's still
Fair
a
is
new,
fair.
everything comes to Oklahoma about 7 years later than it happens other places, so we just need, have other towns handled that. I'm not trying to drive anyone out of business as an Airbnb, but we're a nonprofit that serves our community solely through these tax dollars, so I just don't think it is fair to the community support and fair to people who have traditional B&Bs that there's this whole giant market that is free to not pay this, so I don't.
That makes sense. Alright, try to get everybody out here on time.
I keep talking, I'll be quiet.
Not a problem.
Yeah, just wait till she takes over that chair.
A couple more updates on a few things. The number 8, here sometime with probably, maybe by the 1st of July, the tourism office, which is Verla and I, which we're currently at the end of the hall. We are going to be moving into an off-site location so we can be a little bit more accessible to visitors and tourists. Since we are
Nobody wants to come to the chair.
we are a tourist office, so we're going to be moving our office into the old
Yes.
gas station photomat building, which is just one building south of Hoboken. And so hopefully that makes us an easy target. Yeah, an easy target. That sounds kind of bad.
Or easily accessible.
Easily
Yeah,
accessible.
Easily accessible. So, especially we're gonna paint that building and have some signage to where folks who are coming in from the south will see whatever we're gonna call it. I'm not sure if it's gonna be like visitor center or visitor info or whatever it's gonna be called. It will be right there. We're like, oh, we can stop in here and see where to eat or where to stay or what to do, that kind of thing. So that's in the works and in the and oh, also, Aaron's texting me right now. So hi, wait, Aaron is producing things. So he's texting me information. Aaron is also part of the tourism office now. He's still gonna be staying here because there's no way we can fit all of his equipment into the little space over there. But Aaron has kind of shifted roles into he's part of the tourism, officially part of the tourism team now with all of his genius audio video editing skills. So that's pretty fantastic.
Will you guys be doing your podcast from there too?
Probably, yeah. Which is a fantastic segue, thank you very much, to staff comments, which is what I've been doing for like the past 15 minutes anyway. So some of the things that we've been working on, and I've emailed you guys about some of this stuff already, but 3 main things in regard to the website. With the podcast, we've been doing the podcast now for a few months, and so all those podcasts, the Hit the Bricks podcast episodes, you can find those on just about all of the podcasting platforms. It seems like everybody, every time I say that, somebody was like, well, is it on, podcasting 101 dot whatever? I'm like, oh, nope, it's not. But that's pretty easy to fix. So if there's a podcasting platform that you listen to and it's not on there, let me know, because they kind of come out of the woodwork sometimes. But those those podcasts are also housed on one of the pages for the website, as well as we have. I think I sent you guys an email about the blog page on the website, and with both of those things, it gives us a couple more ways that we can push content out through social media and to bring people back to the website to see things other than those 2 items. So the blog and the podcast are great for promoting certain things, but they also give us kind of like that way to capture people, to get them more information. On the podcast end of things, I've been trying to think of more and more ways that we can promote that podcast via our social pages. And so more than just saying, here's a new episode. I think we're going to try to be better about saying, giving like teasers to episodes, especially if there is like in this past week's episode, which was we interviewed Drew Tikel from Prairie Wolf. And with that interview, he had like just like one snippet of like a 10-second part that was like really good. And so we're able to use that, because it takes Aaron some time to edit the video portion of it, but we can pull out like maybe a little snippet that we can use like really quickly to promote, especially if they're talking about something specific in the community or something that we can use to promote not only the episode and the show, but maybe promote like an event or whatever it is. Basically getting as much traction as we can out of each episode. And then on some episodes, we might have like a musical guest. And so being able to pull that, if they play like a song or two during the episode, after the fact we can pull that song out and post that again later on, just to keep getting more and more traction and content out of one episode. So at any point, if you guys think of ways that we can promote the podcast differently. I'm also even going to like make each podcast episode a blog post, so we can post the blog entry, the blog post that routes things back to both the blog page and the podcast page, and things go like this.
And is the blog with the video, or is it the blog of the podcast?
Yeah, so if it's like if I'm going to do a blog post about the podcast, like it'll have like some information about that episode with the video from the podcast episode, as well as like just the audio link to it as well. So.
And then if you want to see the video, if you want to see your shining faces, it's YouTube and D20.
YouTube, it's posted on Facebook. It posts on the website itself now too. So I'll put the video for the podcast on the blog, so you can basically watch it anywhere and everywhere. So, I'm getting hoarse from talking so much. Let's see. Last time we had a meeting, which was like 4 years ago, but we talked a lot about the like Your Guthrie weekend videos, and like there's those different ideas for that. And I wanted to give you an update on where that is. We're still working on it. Aaron has started shooting the little snippets for those videos. We've contacted everybody, like for all the different recommendations you guys had, we compiled that into like a huge long list, and Verla has talked with everybody on the list just to give them a heads up that we'll be like reaching out to them to shoot some little video snippets. And so everybody was super excited about that. No one said no or that it was terrifying and go away, so we had none of those. And Aaron has been working on both like starting to shoot those pieces, and he's also been working on just the graphic layout for it, kind of the template that we'll use, just so it's not some monumental effort every single week to put that together. He'll just have a template where each week he can just kind of like just drop little segments into it, and we can push that out each week. And so hopefully we can start posting those within the next few weeks, I think. So, in terms of like new things that are coming up, a lot of the folks in town, the like arts places and gallery places and maker type stuff, they've started trying to schedule activities on the same afternoons as Red Brick Nights, and they're calling it Maker Days, so Guthrie Maker Days, and Brella has the flyer for July here, if you want to pass that around. So a lot of those places are just trying to come up with like fun things that folks can do if they want to come in. If they're coming in for Red Brick Nights already, trying to encourage them to show up early, maybe stop at some of their shops and places to maybe do some kind of art project, like a kind of a make and take concept. And so it's been kind of cool to see like all of those folks working together to promote each other. It's always kind of awesome. And so I think at this point they're planning on doing those days at least through the rest of the Red Brick Nights events for the summer, and maybe even keeping that going after the summer's over, I think, maybe. So Tracy Biggs Hayes has been kind of like corralling all their information and putting the flyer together. So if she's watching,
That's really good.
thanks, Tracy.
I was just going to ask you who brings that all together.
Yeah, Tracy does it. So she's been like collecting all their information and laying out the little flyer for them, as well as she did the logo for them too.
Tracy
So,
Biggs Hayes.
yes. Race will be 2. Say really fast, and it just sounds like monthly. No. The only other thing that I can think of right now that's new, in the fall, I say in the fall, in the September 21st, there's a gentleman from Oklahoma City who's organizing a 3-race series for bicycle races in Guthrie. And it's going to be, the September 21st is the first race. Then 2 weeks later, there'll be another race, and 2 weeks after that. So it's a 3-race series, and it's going to be, each one will be a 60-mile route that stops and starts there in front of the bike shop. And so he just posted the registration for the September 21st race last week. So I think the popularity of the Land Run 100, which has come through Guthrie a couple of times, that is turned into one of the biggest bike races in the country.
Right.
And it's just massive and wild. And so the gentleman who's planning these 3 races is trying to both capture some of that momentum that they have with the gravel bike racing community, and he's kind of packaging it as a way to like train, because the Land Run 100 is a 100-mile race, so getting more people kind of that intermediate stage of training for the longer race. He's hoping that folks will jump on board with this to kind of get them ready for the Land Run 100 in the spring.
I'm sorry if you already said this. Where is it taking place at?
It's going to, the start and finish of the race will be down in near Kent's bike shop at Wentz in Oklahoma.
Oh, it'll start and finish there.
Yeah. So it'll be, and each race will be a different route. And I think his idea is to make each route more difficult.
Right.
So it'll be like just a 60-mile loop out into the countryside somewhere with each race.
And that's this fall?
Yes, September 21st, if you want to register for it. And
Yeah.
yeah, you got a few months to get ready for that 60 miles.
I say September, you said?
September 21st, if that's a Saturday.
It is.
Okay,
So
cool.
all 3 races are on that day?
Nope.
No,
Sorry.
Say it all again. I don't
Right, so September 21st is race 1.
Okay,
2 weeks later will be race 2,
okay.
and then 2 weeks after that will be race 3.
So
Gotcha.
it would be October 5th,
No,
So,
October 19th, I think so.
sounds right, no.
Okay.
No,
and so is this a local guy that's doing this?
an Oklahoma City person,
Okay,
no,
well, that's neat.
yeah, no.
I
And,
guess if he needs any of the support, tell him he better hurry up.
right, exactly. Okay, it's 6:30. Any board comments before we,
Do you have any other staff that wants to make a comment?
any other staff? Wants to make staff comments?
Well, I just want to say that we have things that volunteers can help us out with, and we want to
Yeah.
be visible, such as cross-country. It
Yeah.
brings a lot of people here to watch their kids run. The bike show will bring, the bike races will be bring. So we want to have a presence to make people feel welcome if they want to know something about Guthrie, and we always need someone that says, I'll stand there at the table, or maybe not have a table, just go ahead and talk to people and hand out information about tourism.
Verla is our volunteer coordinator extraordinaire. She does amazing work getting people to volunteer for tourism booths and things.
So, well, that's good. I mean, that's the whole cool thing about us moving our office too. The more you talk to people and be friendly with people, the more great feeling they had about being here in Guthrie and
Yeah.
coming back. That's my philosophy anyway. And so Little Britches this year, we've had a huge effort there, but they have scaled back in the fact that they decided they can hire people to do some of the things that we did for free in the other years. So we still have welcoming people there that have already signed up. And it won't be the near push that it was in the past. But anyway, I just wanted to mention having volunteers because I look at the board and how friendly you all are, and I'd love for you to volunteer at some of the things that come to town.
And Verla mentioned the cross-country meet, which is, the high school has an annual meet out at Cottonwood Flats around the beginning of September. And last year was the first time I went to it, and it's really a massive undertaking. I had no idea how many people will show up for that from all over the state. And this year, Coach Strayhorn is moving it from a Friday event to a Saturday event, just to get more schools involved, and that'll be bringing more parents. So the flats are pretty much full for that event of parents and schools from all over the state. And it's,
They stay overnight.
I don't know. I'm not super familiar with how that works. I don't think they're overnight stay people, but they're definitely like, hang out in Guthrie after it's over. Because basically from early in the morning, and they'll probably be done by noon. But after that, I think we're gonna try to capture those folks for that afternoon, so to go downtown to eat and shop and that kind of stuff.
It's early in the morning and they're coming from halfway across the state. There's a possibility that some of them stay here.
Yeah, maybe so.
Come Friday and stay the night.
Cause I've driven my son to Saturday morning cross-country meets at remote locations, and it's miserable
Yeah.
to wake up that early. And
Well, I keep hearing these little things that we might be able to pump up our hotel motel budget if we can track down, for instance, this cross-country meet. I'm sure they've got some sort of group platform where they can communicate with one another. If we just let them know the list of places to stay in Guthrie, if you just give that information to them, we might see some fruit from that.
that's a great idea. I like that.
And then same with the bike stuff, like I don't want to see people driving back to Edmond to stay overnight, like let's
For
make
sure.
sure they know that there's plenty of really beautiful places to stay here.
Yeah. And I've been talking with him too, the bike race guy, about the second race will be on the same Saturday as the Bluegrass Festival. And so he could even promote like, hey, you can come and do this bike race, but there's also like a fantastic Bluegrass Festival where you could camp, they could camp out for the entire weekend and throw their bike race into like the Saturday morning of Bluegrass Festival and make it a pretty phenomenal experience to hang out in Guthrie for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Burla Klein,
Yes,
do you have any more staff?
that's
notes?
enough for tonight.
I've been trying to practice calling her Burla Klein.
Okay, thank you. I like that.
All right, any board comments? No comments, so I'll say this meeting is adjourned.